welcome. This is the blank.
There it is.
There we go. This is the conversion rate optimization insight lab.
I'm Nate Hennon. I've been a part of the data and insights team at iProspect for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I spent 5 years on the client side as a business analyst, a website or web analytics specialist. I was an analyst for everything that you can imagine on almost at every kind of business, but I primarily was focused on conversion and consumer behavior.
So I'm Kysar. I come to iProspect with 12 years of e-commerce experience, starting with an e-com startup of automotive parts. Then I was on the Neiman Marcus team that launched lastcall.com, and I was a business analyst for a web experience team. So now I'm an SEO specialist, and I work primarily on luxury retail clients and travel. Agenda, yes. So today we're going to talk to you about the basic building blocks of conversion rate optimization, and we're going to walk you through the iProspect process.
So the data guy starts with stats. That's how I just do my day. Instead of coffee, just statistics right away. So according to the Monetize e-commerce quarterly, March 2014, 2 to 3% of visitors actually convert to customers. Now you might be thinking, we convert better than that, or maybe we fall a little bit under that statistic. Either way, the true question here is, how do we increase our conversion rate? And conversion rate optimization, which we'll only say about 10 more times in this presentation, is really the way to do this.
So what does that mean? I think we should start with the definition. It's a very structured and systematic approach to improving the performance of your site. So I say structured and systematic because it's not driven by my feelings. It's not driven by the highest paid person in the room, Melissa. It's also not driven by what other people are doing because it works for them. It's really about you and your user and your performance. So we look at user experience. What is that? It's sometimes we think about it as building this beautiful website. So that could be part of it, but the first requirement is to create this site that actually allows a user to go from beginning to end without difficulty. So then we can start to think about simplicity and elegance.
If you remember back to your middle school days, you learned the scientific method. This method is really one of the core foundations to good analysis. So what you want to do here is ask a question. You want to do your research. You want to build a hypothesis. You want to test this hypothesis. You want to collect data. You want to analyze and then draw conclusions. There. And then we also want to use the art of persuasion, but we don't want to just trick people into doing what we want them to do. What we actually want to do is build a personalized experience that encourages engagement and encourages conversion. We do this by looking at user psychology, and we actually want to look at the consumer behavior. But we still want to be able to find ways to connect this behavior to our overall business objectives. And as you can imagine, all of this leads to conversion rate optimization. It's best to think of this as like a machine. So it's a big conversion rate machine, it's going along, but these are the gears that are really pushing the machine forward. So whatever really happens within this little arrow, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it's really these three are the building blocks or the foundation to have a good conversion rate optimization process.
All right, so user experience, not just about websites. I know I've used this example a million times, but I'm going to use it again. I have walked into 3 different doors at the Hyatt, thinking that I am supposed to push. There are doors that open that don't have handles, so it's very confusing, right? If you give me every indication that I am supposed to push, please just let me push. Are you guys familiar with this Coke Freestyle machine? Yeah? Do you like it?
I like it.
Do you love it?
I do love it.
Would you go 2 miles out of your way to get to this machine?
I would.
You would? Okay, good. So about 80% of the people that I asked in the office said they knew exactly what to do right away. Intuitively, they understand it. So I didn't have that experience. I was really confused. I did not know how to get my ice there. It's just, I don't know. I'm not accustomed to this. Maybe I'm not good at new things, but I couldn't get ice in my cup. And then when I finally did, I was actually really overwhelmed. So this is a machine that allows you to make about 106 combinations of sodas and flavors. I am standing there flipping through and people are stacking up behind me. So I get very flustered, right? And I am like, okay, that's it. Diet Coke it is for me. This is me giving up. So what's interesting about this Coke Freestyle machine is that it sends data back to Coca-Cola. So this is one of the first times that they've been able to get real-time data. We take this for granted. We have analytics. We can see this on our site. So at this point, you're collecting this data, and you might, as Coca-Cola, ask a question. So scientific method, right? Ask a question. Is my machine easy to use? I say no. So we start looking at how long it takes people to get ice in their cup. If they're hesitating, then maybe let's help them. Let's look at engagement. So how long are they staying there? Is it 30 seconds? 30 seconds might mean two things. If it's 30 seconds and a really cool combination, that's awesome. That's engagement. We want that. If it's 30 seconds and a Diet Coke, then that means probably confusion. So let's use a little bit of persuasion and prompting to get them to do what we want them to do. I was confused at the ice cup. Let's say if somebody's at the machine, they've put their cup under the handle, they don't know what to do, let's light up that ice handle. Say, here it is. Here's how you get started. If they've got ice in their cup and they're still hesitating, scrolling through and looking and not doing anything, maybe they're also overwhelmed. So let's give these recommendations, like maybe top flavors or customer favorites or recommended just for you. We're using this persuasion marketing to help people. We want them to get to this soda happiness, right? We want them to be like you. I want you to drive 10 miles out of your way to come to Coke Freestyle machine. But we also don't want to interrupt the people that already know what to do. So in that case, let's stay out of their way. Let's stay out of their way, not interrupt, and then let's persuade where we're needed.
So based off of these building blocks, user experience, scientific method, and persuasion marketing, iProspect has developed a 4-step iterative process. Step 1 is implementation. So what we want to do here is audit the site for existing tags. We want to see what's on the site today and see how we can make it better tomorrow. We want to be sure that we're tracking core KPIs. These KPIs could range from the micro level, like video views, PDF downloads, or email signups, to the macro level, which are the core business objectives of the site. For transaction sites, these are normally orders, revenue, AOV, etc. And for lead generation, this is form completions, information requests, things like that. With proper tagging in place, we can begin to move away from being just data analysts to becoming data scientists. And I say that, 1, to make myself feel better about being an analyst, and 2, because we really want to be able to look at the user psychology. We want to understand behavior. We want to identify reasons and roadblocks on the site that are not allowing users to go down a naturally occurring path. Anything that's getting in the way of the user completing the task at hand, which is ultimately conversion, is not something we want on the site. We want to avoid that at all costs.
So we have this aggregated data, which comes from analytics. And we want to start looking at your site's use of creative elements. Color, consistent use of color, consistent use of calls to action, appropriate use of imagery. So if I am at Neiman Marcus and I see a picture of an animal, does not make sense, right? So we want to look at not only aggregated data, but we also want to look at individual paths using click trails, heat maps, and user surveys. People are very willing to tell you what is wrong. So now we have all this information. We're looking at the roadblocks that they've got. So we have these pieces of information where we can see, here they're doing really well, here they're having trouble. So let's combine these elements and create these A/B tests and multivariate tests and continue to test until we get the right mix.
Lastly, we want to start building automated and dynamic reports that allow us to really get at the insights of this optimization process. It is important to look at the testing process as never complete, mostly because one test that works in January may not work in June. So we want to be able to find new ways to really make the site effective as we move along. Reports should be part of the method to learn more about your users and discover more about your business. And what these reports allow us to start doing is go back to implementation. This allows us to say, okay, this worked once, now let's see what we can make it work better. we want to go and re-implement new elements to the site, introduce new things to the users, see how they react to this, and then continually analyze, optimize again, and re-report.
So we have a couple of case studies.
So the DHL homepage had a really high bounce rate, mostly because there wasn't real value proposition here. Users didn't really know what to do when they got to the site. There's no call to action.
They know there's no registration required.
Yeah,
That's it.
using negative language is not always the best thing on a homepage. So we decided to streamline this a little bit. We cleaned it up, put on a stronger call to action, used some better images, and what we found was there was a 17% improvement in user engagement with the second page.
What's really important to note here is that this first version actually says no registration required. What does that mean? This one is actually very specific. Get a quick quote for express parcel delivery. So I know immediately what I'm there for. We also noticed that they had a very clunky sort of form. It was just a form, and people were not completing the form. So we used a tool called Optimizely, and the reason we had to do this was that the DHL dev resources were limited, and we had to circumvent them. So Optimizely allows you to implement a line of JavaScript, and what we did was, using a little bit of JavaScript, a little bit of CSS, we actually improved the form flow, and we saw, just by testing a couple of variations, we saw a 5% improvement in form completion. So we talk a little bit about Optimizely, and what it is, as I mentioned, a line of JavaScript, a little bit of dev resources up front, and then we're able to not change the functionality of the site, but change the layout and change imagery and elements so that we can prompt users to the thing that we want them to do. And so Nate's got a demo.
So here's the iProspect homepage. Pretty simple page, has some good images, but we think we can do better than this. So we want to go and actually, right now, change this image to be something else. And the image we decided to use is the last group actually saying hello to you guys. So we want to go through and start testing out the original version and the new variation to see which one actually engages users a lot more. We want to A/B test this out, maybe a small group, 10% to start off, and then start ranking that up when we find good user behavior.
Yep, and so Nate alluded to this, but you can split your traffic however you want to. Based on depending on how much traffic you get, it may take a week, it may take a month to get statistically significant data to support the winning test. You can also look at things like where they came from, the referring URL. They used to be able to do dynamic paid landing pages, but I think that's actually not going to be the case now after Google has announced their secure search again. So there's many factors that you can do. A lot of people actually use Optimizely and other tools like this to drive 100% of the traffic to the winning test, which is fine short term, I feel like, but I think that if you find the winning test, find the resources to drive that 100% to that test instead of using a third-party tool, because it'll slow it down at some point, right? And it really should be more of a testing, short-term implementation, and then move forward. So it sounds like it looks like you guys use Optimizely. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Any?
And just in that way, but exactly to your point, you make estimations based on early reads, and then they completely turn upside down. By the end of it, you need a lot of traffic, a lot of conversions before you can make any estimations. And what's nice is it does live on your site and it's done in the cloud.
Yeah.
But once you're done, move it off, get your next test rolling.
Yeah. So any success stories?
Yeah, we've had very interesting success stories on our homepage. We had a promo box, and we had the idea that it wasn't converting as well because we didn't have it highlighted as well as it could have been. So we tried underlining all the text, we tried a big red button, and we tried a big green button as 3 different tests. It's very simple.
Did marketing drive this bigger?
No, Matt drove the green button.
Okay.
The red button was all mine.
All right. Did you win?
So actually, we both lost. The original unmessed with version that had a gray button and no underlines was outperforming. And our homepage, we get 2.5 million visitors a month, so it was significant.
how long did it take for you to get a winner?
Well, this was one of the rare cases where it started out of the chute and it never stopped. The original version outperformed, but we kept it running for about a month and a half
Okay.
before we said, just left it alone.
Nice. This is actually the interface. So it's actually quite simple. You can do more complicated things, but if it is just about resizing font or changing the image, it's actually quite simple. It's just like Nate was showing you. It's really a couple of clicks of a button.
And question?
Okay.
All right, so questions, perfect timing.
Are you guys using A/B testing tools? You could be. Everybody could be.
Yes.
They're about to go through a site redesign though, and
Yeah.
a site relaunch. It's a good time.
Perfect.
We had one lady tell us that they flipped the product image. So flip the product detail page, and normally the image is on the left and all your description is on the right. They mirrored. That's all they did. And she didn't share statistics, but she said that was the clear winner, which is really interesting to me because for me, like, things are where they are, right? Like, sort should be here, filters should be here or here. So for flipping, I would have never thought about that, but it worked. Are you guys doing any tests that you can share with us?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I know we are doing
Yeah.
A/B testing, but I'm not privy to like.
One thing that I noticed on Neiman's was
Yeah.
that instead of using models full body,
Yes,
I noticed
exactly
this,
that, yeah,
this cutoff
headless.
and that one,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me. Maybe it's just that you focus now on this,
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
our really sad and grumpy looking models.
Right.
What's interesting though for us is that like Cusp uses the whole lady,
Mm-hmm.
like the whole uses their. So it's interesting how different brands, different audiences, even though we're selling the same, the same top on two sites.
Yeah.
One user likes the linear model and the other user doesn't.
And that's important because you start to find ways through optimization to actually profile customers differently.
10:15. Time to wrap things up. You have 5 minutes before your next lab begins. Find your wrangler and get
I
moving.
thought this was break time.
It is for us, so I think
Oh,
they
for
vary
you
the
guys.
breaks
Okay.
for different
Got it.
teams.
In that case, could I get a picture for the next group?
Fingers are allowed.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so the break is actually just, so this is the row of Insight Labs, and on the other side in that hallway at the end, there should be food and drinks and whatever if you want to hang out there. And then afterwards, I'm probably going to group you all about 5 minutes before the end of the break, because our next lab is actually down by the cafe, so it's a little bit of a walk to get down there. So just so you know.
Where should we meet?